Welcome back to For the Elevate and our 13th episode. As always, we appreciate you taking the time to share a bit of your day with us as we have conversations about issues that women often struggle with on their journey to what we call a healthier me. And struggle's okay, as long as we don't get stuck or feel like we're in a rut with no place to go. We can warrior on, but let's warrior on for a good reason and for positive outcomes in both our personal and professional lives. Wouldn't you agree? Well, we hope so. So let's talk emotions. We all have those crazy things, and when everything is going well, we embrace them. But when things are a bit upside down, we try and push them aside and wait for a better day to open that emotional turbine. What comes next? You guessed it, combustion overload. We overreact and quite often make it uncomfortable for all involved. So Leana's going to lead us through an emotional conversation, one full of honesty, vulnerability, and some keeping it real moments for individuals on their leadership journey. Some helpful tips on how to deal with emotions in positive ways for both you and your teams. So let's give it a go.
Welcome back to For the Elevate, with topics that help you with living and learning and leading. And we have a really good one today. I think it's they're all good, but this one I really love the idea of talking about is our emotions. Goodness, we've all got them. So what should we do with them? Kathy, Bridget?
Well, don't stuff them. How's that?
Good.
And I like that. But yeah, we were just talking earlier about emotional honesty, and getting real with yourself is really important before you can keep it real with other people, and to learn how to do that in ways that enhance your relationships and your own personal life. But they're that warning sign of what's going on inside of us. And we need to pay attention, just like we pay attention to pain physically. It's a symptom of something going on. It's important to figure it out and deal with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think though, as women too, we often, I don't know if we've just been conditioned or what it is, but we often think we have to put those things away until another day. And then that other day becomes a week, 2 weeks, a month, and then before long, it just keeps adding and adding, and we haven't dealt with them. And I think as women, we need to be a little bit more willing to explore those emotions in a positive way, though. What is that emotion I'm feeling, and why am I feeling that? Instead of just hurrying up and reacting. Sometimes when I'm in a situation, one of the things I have to do is before I react, I count to 10. And because if I don't count to 10, I've done this before, if I'm at 5 or 6, I really do something ridiculous. So I have to count to 10 and wait. And that actually works, because then I'm like, okay, now I can think a little bit more clearly about that and understand my emotions and what's going on.
Yeah, well, and in my experience, if you think about it, say you're driving your car, and every time you pass another car, it's an emotion that you're stuffing, right? You're just going past it and not really dealing with it. And if you keep doing that long enough, you'll eventually get rear-ended, because they're going to catch up to you, and it's not going to be pretty when they do, right?
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but we don't always recognize it. I mean, I was raised in a home of extreme emotional management. My mother was chill. And so I didn't learn to, I never saw people go nuts. I had to actually unearth some of that and think, oh, and what does that look like to me? And sometimes it was a sleepless night, or I'm just really uneasy about something, or dreading something, so kind of tuning into what I was actually feeling was not easy for me at all. I had to really practice that, and still do. But it's important.
Well, I think sometimes too, I'll call it phone a friend, can really be helpful, because when you can just vent and talk to someone about those things, those feelings, they can either help you redirect help you just deal with whatever you're dealing with in the moment. Maybe they've been there, done that before and experienced it. So it can be so relatable. So, that's really important too. Find that person that can be your lifeline, if you will.
I have this vision of Kathy's face the first time she saw somebody lose it.
Right.
Let me just tell you, one of my best friends is she and her husband like fight, like they yell at each other. And I had never seen anything like that. And I was a young married person at their house, and they at the time had 4 kids. And I'm just watching this, and I was completely silent. When we left, my husband said, "Kathy, you were so rude. I mean, you didn't say anything." I went, "I was watching the show. I mean, I didn't." And I was like seriously amazed by the whole thing, and it just didn't faze anybody in the family. And this couple, I gotta tell you, they are the coolest couple that I know, and they're buddies. But boy, can they unearth those emotions and have conversation about them. So
wow.
It was a huge learning thing for me. And to this day, we all laugh about it because it was kind of funny.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of that environment leads into how we deal with emotions, for sure, right? In a big way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a huge way. I mean, my parents sound like they were just like your friends. So they were, they were very loud, and some days you just walk away going, I'm going to leave those two to it, consequently, I do not act like that. We are not people that yell. My husband and I, we don't do that at all. So you just take what was in there and you take away from that and say, I'm not going to do that. And, it works out. It all works out in the end.
Yeah. And there are a lot of, whether conscious or otherwise, strategies that we use as a culture to not face emotion. Television, alcohol, you name it. I mean, in all transparency, I'm guilty of having a couple of glasses of wine when things get tough. And I think there's a place where you're giggling, but it's No,
I do it.
Yeah, we all do it. We all do
I have a couple of glasses when things aren't tough. But anyway,
exactly.
Well, there's that. Yes, exactly. But I think there's a time and place for that. But if that's a consistent approach to a daily approach to dealing with the issues or emotions that you're feeling, at some point you just have to. A friend of mine once said that the best advice they gave me was to just sit down and experience it. Even if it's nasty, even if it feels horrible, and even if you cry, stomp your feet, whatever, just sit down, be quiet, and face it, because it'll find you.
Yeah.
When you least expect it.
It does find you. And that is really good advice. Face it. That's why I said, what's the worst that can happen to me? I'm really angry. That, okay, so, and figuring out what's doing that. What am I going to do about it? It's not going to kill me, but it's not an easy thing for me to let go and just, experience that. So my like during COVID, I'm going to assume other people like myself had experiences where I think I'm going to go nuts now.
Yes.
And so I would go out in my car and take a drive and go nuts, and talk to myself. And I think it helped. Or I'd call Bridget and go nuts and we'd talk. But it's important to not bury that, because it's only going to make you drink more.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. And it really does make you unhealthy. You just can't keep pushing that stuff to the side. It is so important to kind of welcome it in. As you said, face it. You really have to. And that's kind of a strange way to look at it. But when you're welcoming it and then you can deal with it, it'll be very freeing.
Yes. And I think there's definitely something to be said for asking for help from people that you're in a trusting relationship with. But I also think that there's some element, if we're thinking about leading, for example, well, and even the living piece of it, just life in general, I think there's part of it where you just have to sit and process it yourself before you start sharing, because at the height of emotion, you can really say and do some things that are not effective. If you have people that report to you and you fly off the handle because of a situation that they're unaware of, for example, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I have a lot of thoughts on that. I'm a huge believer in on stage, off stage. And when you're a leader in an organization, you are on stage all the time, and you've got to learn to manage that with your team. It's really an important part of leadership. That at the same time, you have to learn to be authentic. So what's that combination? And to figure that out for yourself takes some tools and some training often, and some time. And it's something I think we all really need to practice. Nobody wants to see their leader going off.
No.
And the flip side of that is learning to manage other people's emotions in a constructive way is just a huge and important part of leadership.
Yeah, and people will appreciate that. When they see that their leader is managing those situations well, but being vulnerable enough to have a conversation and bring them along with them. They'll really appreciate that. I remember that I worked with someone who was an individual who loved to throw every object that they found. And that was a nightmare, especially if you got hit with it. So, and it never phased. If you got hit, too bad. So it was a crazy time, but those kinds of emotions never garner respect.
No, they don't. And if you're on an executive team and you're behaving like that behind the boardroom door, I got news for you. That gets out. People hear about it. I've worked for a similar individual, and his biggest issue was turnover. I'm thinking, well, duh. Yeah, that's a bit of an issue, but yeah.
Everyone knows. Everyone's watching.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. Even if the door is shut, they're definitely watching. But I really, honestly, on top of that, because none of us are superhuman, there may be occasions when that I always refer to as this thing, because I've got an Irish background. If this thing starts coming up my spine, eventually it'll come out here. I've learned to kind of, okay, let's just chill and think about this for a minute. But if you do lose it, own up to it, right?
100%, right. What a great
skill that is.
Right?
And we all do lose it. So to say, wow, I apologize. I lost it. I shouldn't have done that. And I'm working on that is always good. And people will respect that as well. And I also don't mean you deny your emotions during all of this too, as a leader. I think it's really important to say things like, this doesn't seem fair to me either. I'm sure, this makes me angry. It's not going to help us to stay there. So we've got to come up with some solutions. So I think acknowledging emotions is really important as a leader, as well as managing them as you're leading.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's so great to be introspective and try to figure out why you're really having those emotions. Because sometimes we have absolutely no idea and what that trigger is, but when we stop and take a moment to figure that out, we can also lead from a different place then as well.
Therapy helps.
And
it does, for real. I mean, I don't want that to sound glibber like I'm being funny, but everybody can use that a little bit, or a professional coach or somebody that you can bounce things off of.
That's right.
To find the root of that trigger and know your triggers ahead of time before you have to have, say, a difficult conversation. If you know that certain things push your button, be prepared, hide the button.
That's an important point. Be prepared ahead of time. Get yourself, it's called emotional hygiene. I love that term.
Yeah.
But get yourself cleaned up for the conversation, because that's a trigger. And if you don't know your triggers, ask your colleagues, because they do know your triggers.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
Right. Yeah. They know 100%.
Yeah. Excellent. Oh, I love this discussion. Okay, perfect. So for the elevate, pay attention to those emotions, right?
That's
Final
right.
final words, thoughts?
Just don't succumb to the status quo and stuffing, because here's the deal with emotions. When we bury them, they're still alive. So
Yes.
they're not dead. They're alive. And one day they will rear their ugly heads. So might as well deal with them in a safe place when you can.
Yep. Yep.
I think that's really important. Deal with them in a safe place when you can, because that's the best time to deal with them.
Yeah. Kind of ties into our discussion we had about courage in another episode, right? It takes courage to face those, and boy, so rewarding. All right. Thank you very much. And we'll see you again next time.
Okay. Well, we hope you found this conversation helpful, as we all have emotions that we need to tend to sooner or later. Now, hopefully, you understand some ways you can invite those emotions in to understand and deal with them in much healthier ways. One of those does include laughter. So with that in mind, it's time for our jitter time, which, as a reminder, is just how we conclude our chats and find that one quote to help you lighten the load of an otherwise heavy day. So here we go. I have this theory that chocolate slows down the aging process. It may not be true, but do I dare take the chance? Well, there's no author known for this one, and I, for one, will not be giving up my chocolate anytime soon. So, as our time nears its end for this episode, please don't forget to leave us comments. Let us know if this discussion helped you think about your emotions differently. How do you feel about emotional honesty? Are you prepared to acknowledge and manage your emotions? Can others help you on this journey? Please know we are here for you and are happy to help. You're part of this community, so reach out and let us know what you might need, or just how you're doing on your emotional journey to this healthier you. So until next time, please do keep moving towards that healthier you. Do it for the elevate.